All right, so get ready because we're going to dive into something that most of us don't think about too much until it's an emergency. Our electrical panels, you know, that mysterious metal box usually hiding in your basement?
Basement utility room,
Or utility room.
Yeah.
We've got a great article here from Electric Code of Las Vegas.
Okay.
And it's called, How Long Does It Take to Replace a Breaker Box? An Electrician's Perspective.
Interesting.
And it was published pretty recently, actually, just last week on December 16th, 2024.
Okay.
So let's unpack why you should even care about this at all.
Right.
How long it really takes to replace one of these things, and maybe uncover a few unexpected benefits while we're at it.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah. What's really interesting is that most people only interact with their electrical panels on a very limited basis, usually when a circuit breaker trips.
You're telling me it's definitely not something I go and inspect regularly.
Yeah, I think you're like most people in that regard.
So this article says the average replacement takes, get this, 4 to 8 hours.
Wow, that's a big chunk of time.
That means planning a whole day around this project, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
It's not a quick fix.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
An electrician has to assess your home's electrical needs carefully.
Okay.
To make sure the new panel is the right size.
Makes sense.
Then they have to disconnect the power for safety.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Are there any common mistakes that homeowners make?
Absolutely.
When trying to assess their own electrical needs?
Yeah.
Thinking they can DIY this whole thing?
Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes is underestimating their home's current and future electrical needs.
Oh, interesting.
People often overlook things like the growing number of devices they have, the potential for adding electric vehicle chargers down the line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or even just the increasing energy demands of modern appliances.
Wow.
And let's be clear. This is not a DIY project.
Yeah.
Working with live electricity is extremely dangerous.
Okay.
It's not just about connecting wires. It's about understanding the entire electrical system, potential hazards, and meeting very specific codes. So,
okay, so the electrician disconnects the power, and then what?
Yeah.
It's not just a simple swap, right?
It's not a simple swap.
Especially if you're upgrading from an older fuse box to a modern breaker panel.
Right. You're right. It can get more complex.
Okay.
Upgrading from a fuse box usually involves rewiring to make it compatible with the new panel.
Wow. So this is a great time to highlight one of the big advantages
of modern panels. Circuit breakers.
All right.
Unlike old fuses, circuit breakers can be reset.
Oh!
If a circuit overloads, the breaker trips, cutting off the power to prevent a fire.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and then you could just flip the breaker back on.
Wow.
Instead of replacing the whole fuse.
That's pretty convenient.
That's a huge safety improvement.
Yeah, big improvement. It's like a safety net for your electricity, preventing those scary electrical fires we hear about.
Exactly.
So besides safety, what other advantages are there to having a modern panel?
Well, modern panels are built to handle much higher electrical load of today's homes.
Makes sense.
Think about how many gadgets and appliances we use.
Oh, yeah.
Compared to, say, 50 years ago.
Right.
Plus, there's the efficiency factor.
Okay.
Modern panels are designed to minimize energy waste.
Interesting.
They use higher quality materials and more sophisticated circuitry to reduce resistance and heat loss.
Wow.
This can actually translate to lower energy bills over time.
So not only safer, but potentially cheaper to run in the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great selling point. But for someone on a tight budget, wouldn't it be tempting to put off an upgrade?
Sure.
As long as possible?
Yeah.
I can see that. Okay, so we've established that upgrading is usually a good idea. But let's talk about the future for a minute.
Okay.
How does all of this tie into the increasing demands on our electrical systems?
Well, think about those EV chargers we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Those things can draw a lot of power. A standard level 2 charger typically needs a dedicated 240-volt circuit.
Wow.
With 30 to 50 amps.
Okay.
That's a significant draw.
Right.
That most older panels simply weren't designed to handle.
That's way more power than your average wall outlet, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just EVs.
Okay.
Smart home technology is also putting increased demand on our electrical panels.
Right.
All those connected devices.
Yeah.
From smart thermostats to security systems are constantly drawing power.
Really?
Even when they're not actively in use.
Wow. It's wild to think about all those devices.
I know, it's crazy.
Silently using electricity behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's like they have a life of their own.
Right.
So it's not just about the big, obvious appliances anymore. Even the seemingly small things can add up.
Absolutely.
Right.
And as we shift towards more sustainable living, we're likely to see even more reliance on electricity.
Yeah.
Imagine things like heat pumps replacing gas furnaces.
Okay.
Or induction cooktops replacing gas stoves.
Right.
These technologies are incredibly energy efficient.
Yeah.
But they require a robust electrical system to support them.
So to circle back to that question we posed earlier, how future-proof is your home's current setup?
It's a crucial question to ask yourself.
Right.
You need to consider not only your current needs, but also what your needs might be 5, 10, even 20 years down the line.
It's like planning for a growing family.
That's a great analogy.
You need to make sure your home has enough space to accommodate everyone comfortably.
And in this case, the space we're talking about is electrical capacity.
Right.
Yeah.
So even if your current panel seems adequate for today's needs, it's a good idea to have it inspected.
I think that's a smart move.
By a licensed electrician.
Yeah, they can assess its condition, identify any potential issues, and make recommendations based on your specific situation and projected future needs.
Makes sense.
Especially if you're planning any major renovations, additions, or lifestyle changes.
Right.
That might impact your electrical usage.
But what are some of the things that can influence that final price tag?
Well, the size of the panel is a major factor.
Okay.
A larger house with more circuits will require a bigger panel, which naturally costs more.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And I imagine the complexity of the installation can also play a role.
Absolutely.
Right.
If you're upgrading from a very old fuse box, there might be extensive rewiring needed.
Oh, wow.
Which increases labor costs.
Okay.
And then there are things like permits and inspections.
Right.
Which are typically required for major electrical work.
Right. We can't emphasize this enough.
Yeah.
Electrical work is not something to take lightly.
Oh.
DIY is absolutely off the table.
Yeah, leave it to the licensed professionals. They have the expertise, the experience, and the safety equipment to handle the job correctly.
Okay.
Ensuring everything is up to code.
Right.
And most importantly, safe.
Now, our article today comes from Electrocode of Las Vegas.
Okay.
They're a local company, so they really understand the specific needs and regulations in that area.
Right.
So if you're in the Las Vegas area and thinking about upgrading your electrical panel, they're definitely a resource worth checking out.
It's always a wise decision to get a professional opinion before making any major decisions about your home's electrical system.
Right.
And with a company like Electrocode, you can be confident that you're getting expert advice.
Okay, so we've talked about the why, the how, and the who of electrical panel upgrades. But what about the actual process itself?
Okay.
What can a homeowner expect when they decide to replace their breaker box?
Well, the process usually starts with an initial consultation.
Okay.
The electrician will come out to your home.
Right.
Take a look at your current setup and talk to you about your needs.
Okay.
They'll assess your electrical usage,
right,
the number of circuits you have, and any special requirements you might have.
Okay.
Like those EMI chargers we discussed.
This is the perfect time to ask any questions you have and to make sure you're on the same page about the scope of the project.
Communication is key
right
throughout the entire process.
So after the assessment, the electrician provides a detailed quote.
Yeah.
And a timeline for the work.
Right. The quote should outline all the costs.
Okay.
Including the factors we mentioned earlier, like panel size,
right,
complexity, permits, and inspection.
Right.
So there are no surprises later on.
Okay. And once you've agreed to the terms, they schedule a time to begin the work.
Right. And this is where things can get a bit disruptive.
Oh, really?
Because the power to your entire home will need to be shut off during the installation.
Oh, wow. That's important. It's important to choose a time that's convenient for you and your family and to have a plan for how you'll handle things like refrigeration, lighting, and any other essential appliances that rely on electricity.
Some electricians might be able to offer temporary power solutions.
Okay.
But it's best to discuss that up front.
Okay, so the big day arrives. What happens next?
On the day of the installation.
Okay.
The electrician will arrive.
Right.
And begin by carefully disconnecting the power to your home, taking all necessary safety precautions.
Okay.
They'll then remove the old panel and start installing the new one.
So they're carefully swapping out the old panel.
For the new one.
Right.
What's all involved in that process?
Well, it involves connecting all the circuits,
okay,
ensure that each one is properly labeled, and making sure that all the wiring is done to code.
Right.
Then once the new panel's in place, they'll thoroughly test it to make sure it's functioning correctly.
Right.
And if any inspections are required, they'll coordinate that with the local authorities.
It sounds pretty complex.
It can be, yeah.
I can see why hiring a licensed electrician is so crucial.
Exactly. It's not a job for amateurs.
Right.
Once the testing and inspections are done, then they'll restore power to your home and walk you through the new panel.
All right.
Explain how it all works. Answer any questions you might have.
Okay, so now you've got a brand new, up-to-date electrical panel.
Right.
Ready to handle all the demands of modern living.
Exactly.
That peace of mind must feel pretty good.
It really does.
Yeah. It's an investment in the future of your home.
Speaking of the future,
let's
touch on something we often overlook.
Okay.
The lifespan of an electrical panel.
Right. It's not something most people think about.
Right.
But electrical panels do have a finite lifespan.
Yeah.
Just like any other appliance.
Right.
A well-maintained panel can typically last anywhere from 25 to 40 years.
Oh, but that's assuming it's not subjected to extreme wear and tear.
Right.
Or significant changes in electrical demand.
Right.
Which, let's face it, are pretty common these days.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Given the rapid pace of technological advancements, it's highly likely that a panel installed 25 years ago isn't equipped to handle the demands of a modern home.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So even if your panel seems to be working fine, it's wise to have it inspected by a licensed electrician.
They can assess its condition, spot any potential issues, and recommend any necessary upgrades or replacements.
Exactly.
This is especially important.
Yeah.
If you're planning any major renovations or additions to your home.
Absolutely. Adding new reams, appliances, or electrical systems can put a significant strain on an older panel.
Yeah.
It's best to consult with an electrician beforehand. To make sure your system can handle it.
Okay, so we've talked extensively about the technical aspects of electrical panel upgrades. But choosing the right electrician is just as important as choosing the right panel itself.
It is. You want someone who is licensed, insured, experienced, and just as importantly, communicative. Someone who can answer your questions, address your concerns, and guide you through the process with confidence and professionalism.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we?
I think we have.
From the why and the how to the who and the what.
The who and the what.
Of electrical panel upgrades.
Yeah. Hopefully you're feeling more informed and empowered.
Right.
To make decisions about your home's electrical system.
And remember, if you're ever in doubt, consult with a licensed electrician.
Absolutely. They're the experts.
Yeah.
And they can guide you through the process. And make sure your home is safe and up to code.
It's all about creating a home that's not only comfortable and convenient, but also safe and sustainable, ready to support your family's needs today and well into the future.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the electrifying world of electrical panels, let's leave our listeners with this.
Okay.
In this era of constant technological advancements and changing energy consumption patterns, are we doing enough to ensure our homes can handle the future?
That's a good question.
It's something to ponder.
Yeah.
As we all keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in our own homes.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us. We'll be back soon with more fascinating topics to explore.